Oh, that was funny. Okay. What happened? It said we were live, and then there it goes. It said we were live, and then it said we weren't. I was very confused, but it's loading now. I can see it. Alhamdulillah. Spinny, spinny, spinny. There it is. Assalamu alaikum, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamu alaikum, boys and girls. It is just after 9 o'clock on the East Coast and just after 8 o'clock in Texas Coast. And it is Tuesday evening, and we are here live coming at you with the only edutainment podcast that has been social distancing since 2017 with the hardest working imam that I know, Imam Azhar.
Assalamu alaikum and good evening to all our listeners. Thank you for joining us for once again another weekly episode, as Carl put it, an edutainment episode of Raw Islam with myself and my dear brother Carl. We welcome you in this hind end of spring as we are preparing to enter into summer very soon, as the climate is warming up outside and as hope looms in the air, as we stay home and we practice social distancing and self-quarantine only so that we can allow this plague or this virus to pass, and that we can get back to a life of productivity, appreciation, and gratitude. Thank you so much once again for joining us. This is a show where you, the audience, select our weekly topics of discussion. You select, we discuss. It's not a conversation between the two of us, rather, it's a conversation with all of us. So, without further ado, I'm going to ask Brother Carl to tell us what were the subjects that were on the poll, on our weekly Twitter poll this week, and what was the topic that you all selected to be the topic of tonight. Brother Carl?
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, if you go over to Twitter and you find us at VennNetwork, VennNetwork, that's 3 N's in a row, VennNetwork, you can take part in our weekly poll that we post, where you, our audience, you, our listeners, you, our fans, get to select what topic we are going to be talking about on our Tuesday evening show. And this week, the poll was posted, and the options were homeschooling, don't forget Ramadan, Cuomo sexual, and what's the deal with, which, as you all know, is the on our mind at that moment. And this week, ladies and gentlemen, the winner was finally a clear winner. Was hashtag Cuomo sexual. That was our winner this week. Now, before I pass it back, because I'm already getting weird looks from the other end, I want to explain this. Because for the last, I'd probably say 2 to 3 weeks, I have been trying to drop subtle hints and trying to shoehorn in this conversation, and it has gone quite unsuccessfully. And yesterday, there is a gentleman he's on all platforms. He's on Twitter, he's on Facebook, he's on YouTube. YouTube is where I follow him the most, who does parody songs. And yesterday, he released a song about Andrew Cuomo. And one of the lines in the song was that he's going to become a Cuomo-sexual because Andrew Cuomo is cute. But the point of the song, which is what I've been trying to talk about for the last 3 weeks now, or 2 weeks, was that, and which is why I put this in the poll this week, was because the leadership that he is displaying as the governor of New York, the forward thinking that he is displaying as the governor of New York, I legitimately feel that when you hear a elected public official speak, the feeling that he leaves you with at the end of the day when he's done talking, even if it's bad news, is what you want to hear. That's how you want to feel when you walk away from a leader speaking. And I legitimately think that Andrew Cuomo is exhibiting amazing leadership qualities, and that's what I've wanted to talk about for the last couple of weeks. And thanks to Randy Rainbow, I was able to shoehorn in the topic. But and I'll also side note that with, and I really love when the Cuomo brothers get on CNN and debate things. I think that's really entertaining. There's one clip out there of, when this is over, are you going to run for president? No. Have you thought about it? No. No, you haven't thought about it? No, you're not going to do it. I told you I'm not going to do it. It's just these two brothers going head to head, and it's amazing to watch. But that's just an added bonus to it all. But yes, that is tonight's topic, Andrew Cuomo and leadership and how a real leader should be. And there you go. Over to you, sir.
So I was just trying to figure this whole thing out. So yes, uh, Governor Cuomo from New York is the brother of what's his name on CNN?
Chris, isn't it? Isn't it Chris Cuomo and Andrew
Andrew
Cuomo?
Cuomo and Chris Cuomo. Okay, they're brothers, and there's a lot of clips out there of the two of them, uh, kind of taking jabs at each other. How Chris says he's mom's favorite, and how mom doesn't hear from Andrew, and Andrew tells Chris, "No, I called mom just before I got in the show," and he's like, "You know, you didn't." Two brothers just being brothers, and that's it's a beautiful thing to see. That it also gives assurance to brothers, reassurance to people who have brothers that those differences are always going to be there, and everyone finds an opportunity to take a jab at the other.
It
So that's
really is.
perfectly fine.
It really does bring a level, and I'm gonna just switch the camera there real quick. But it really does bring a level of heartwarming to
It
the whole
does.
scenario. I mean, we're living in a time of panic, and to see these two brothers on nightly TV just going, "Mom always liked you best," which is a throwback to for me, because of the way I was raised. It's a throwback to the 1960s with the Smothers Brothers, which is "Mom always liked you best." That's one of their best skits. But anyway, I digress. Back to you.
No, no, no. This is so true. It's so amazing. But a lot of people are talking about how Andrew Cuomo should be the president or he should run for president, and why are people feeling this different vibe and this inclination towards Andrew Cuomo? I need you all tonight, the audience, both on Periscope and YouTube, to chime in. I need your Twitter. I need you to tweet. I need you to tell us. And then we want to engage on this topic because it's not one of my subject matters. And practically most of the ones that we talk about aren't my subject matter expertise. And we made that clear here in Raw Islam. We want to talk about everything that you select. We want to start the conversation. We want you to help enhance the conversation, and we want all of us to spread the conversation. So it's amazing. Please be involved with us tonight, especially please. But in addition to that, we love to give an Islamic touch to things, and that's what we're going to do tonight. Why is it that people feel this, what they feel, a semi-sexual inclination towards Andrew Cuomo because he's so mature and so responsible is because we're living in a world where people don't take responsibility seriously anymore, where people are not transparent, where they don't take accountability, where they don't really pull up their sleeves and pull up their socks and really do the work that needs to be done. That's the world we're living in. It's the norm. It's where in a company that people are paid six figures, a boss needs to go down the throat of his employee and say, I want that deadline tomorrow. I want it done. The responsibility isn't there. And many people in our society now are procrastinators, such as our president who procrastinates that malaria medicine will just make this. And I want this to, Carl, it's gonna magically go away. It's gonna magically go away. As President Trump said, it's just gonna disappear. It's just gonna disappear. Like there's some miracle that's gonna happen. It's gonna disappear. Um, let's be realistic. Being responsible is one of the many great qualities Islam teaches us. And if I'm not responsible, doesn't mean Islam is bad, it means I'm bad. Because one of the qualities it instills in me is to take responsibility. There's a tradition of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, in which he states, "Kullukum ra'in wa kullukum mas'ulun an ra'iyatihi." All of you are responsible and all of you will be held to account for your responsibility. So a father is responsible for a child, a mother is responsible for a child, an elder brother is responsible for a younger brother, a priest, an imam is responsible for the flock, a khalifa, a governor, a president is responsible for his or her people. Every one of you is responsible, and every one of you will be held to account for your responsibility. This is one of the many teachings that have been instilled into our religion, that you have to be responsible when you take responsibility, or you are allocated responsibility, or that you are handed over that responsibility. Take it and do it well. And it's sad to see that in the 21st century, uh, in the year 2020, hardly anyone in our world is displaying maturity and responsibility, especially our world leaders. Uh, Trudeau is doing his press briefings from his cottage or somewhere in the front doorstep, 10 feet distance, no one there. While Boris Johnson, who's in ICU, and I hope he gets better and he gets out, he's the Prime Minister of England. Doesn't matter if we disagree with people, we should always pray for their goodness, not for their bad. He was going around shaking hands and thinking there was nothing wrong with it. There was a priest who went to the Mardi Gras, he went to Louisiana, and he died because of this. There's 3, 4 priests who have met with their flocks, and they are now all the priests have been diagnosed with COVID-19, and it seems that many more of their flock has been diagnosed with it also. The question is this: where is the damn responsibility in people? People ain't responsible anymore. And so when you have fools who are demonstrating positions of responsibility and accountability with a careless attitude, you become accustomed to dropping the bar. So we've dropped the bar so low in America in 3 years with our president, because if Barack Obama even sneezed the wrong way, the world would jump on him. If Bush did something wrong, the world would jump on him. If Clinton did something wrong, or Reagan, or anyone, we've had a history of holding our leaders to the highest level of accountability and responsibility. It's gone now. And so, in the midst of this downward spiral, that everything was like, you're not surprised anymore, out comes this man who not only is taking responsibility of what's happening in his state, but he's doing what he can, and he's being very transparent. As he said, we're trying to outbid other states for supplies, for those ventilators, and for what you call it, the masks. And it goes to show that he is, number one, human. Number two, he's taking his job seriously. Number three, he's calling on everyone to cooperate. He's not a dictator. He's not saying, I'm going to do it. He's, guys, let's do this together. Number four, he's talking to them every day. So when you see a face of maturity and responsibility in the midst of immaturity and irresponsibility, yeah, you're going to have this little tingling in your body, like, whoa, what is that? Well, what, you know what that is? That's called sense. Sense has come back into us. Our minds and our bodies and our souls are telling us that's what leadership is supposed to be. And Andrew Cuomo is one example of the 7 billion examples we should see on the earth right now, where everyone is responsible. When you see in New York City, people are riding their bikes and they're jumping outside, or in Washington, people are going out because it was a good day, or Florida, they're jumping and swimming on the beaches. It goes to show that human beings at a large scale, unfortunately, are greatly irresponsible. Carl, I want to know from you, with the this Kumo thing going on, and of course, I want to stick to his responsibility aspect. I know people are going to find out like what has he done to his chest? Is he pierced it or what's happened? People are going the whole 9 yards to talk about every detail of his life, but realistically, in the ground zero once again of our country, New York as a state and not just a city is trying to mitigate the situation, trying to figure things out. For many people who I know personally that are there right now in New York or Long Island, or many of my friends here who have family there, it's a very desperate time and a very depressing time. Too many deaths occurring there. Matter of fact, New York and New Jersey combined have more cases than China as a country. So I just want you to knock that into your head. Two states have more cases than a country and a nation of 1 billion people, known as China. So, um, Carl, fill us in. What do you have to say? What do our listeners have to say? Tell us.
Well, the only comment that I can see right offhand here is from Omi, and she said, I think this was before we started. She says, "I don't even know what that means." And Omi, I hope I explained it well enough. And Imam Mazhar went exactly where I wanted him to go, and he was talking about exactly what I was hoping he would talk about, which is just simply that we have we don't see the leadership we used to see. And I don't specifically just mean Trump. I'm not like picking on him specifically. Yesterday or day before last, the governor of Georgia reopened the beaches, and same with the governor of Florida. They put in this lockdown, stay home, but we're going to open the beaches so people can attend. That's the kind of leadership we don't. That's a typical thing. That's the leadership that we don't see. And you're right. He comes out every day and he's upfront and he's honest and he's professional about it. You know what I mean? He's very business. He's not swearing, he's not cursing, he's not being derogatory. It's all business and it's all straight. And it's funny you were talking about, if Obama sneezed, they'd jump up, they would have jumped all over him. But and I was just like, he wore a tan suit, man.
Exactly.
Get the impeachment trials ready. He wore a tan suit. It's the end of the universe. But at the same time, I'm the governor of Georgia and we're in the middle of a global pandemic. And I sat here the other day and I don't know why, but I did the math out. And I think the last I heard was coronavirus is in 32 countries, I think is what I heard. And not only are there 32 countries that currently have this virus, but a fourth of the cases are right here. 1/4 of the cases are right here. And that's a huge ratio. And so when you see things like, this will all go away one day, it'll all be fine, and it's like, wow, this is so not what leadership should be. And then you see somebody come out and take responsibility, and he takes the forefront, and he's mature about it. And I'll tell you, I was laughing the other day. I think maybe it was Sunday or Saturday. I never thought in my life that it was the day before Jared Kushner came out and he said, the federal stockpiles are for us, they're not for the states, which didn't make any sense to begin with. But then the next day, Andrew Cuomo thanked Alibaba for the donation of ventilators. And I thought to myself, did you ever think you would see the governor of New York thanking a foreign, like, Amazon competitor for a donation of ventilators that are life saving, and it really just blew my mind. And I'm gonna say, hey, look, Sunshine is with us this evening, and I hope she brought those brownies she was gonna cook earlier. She says Cuomo has handled this well, but I don't like him. I don't like his handling of Rikers. He needs to handle that mess. I don't want to see him in the White House. He should step in and deal with Blasio and Rikers. Blasio. Yeah, no, I got you. Yeah, I honestly don't know much what he's done with Rikers at the moment, and so I don't want to. I don't want to step into that. My my whole point was just his presentation. What we've been being delivered for the last 3 years
Mhm,
versus what we're seeing,
mhm,
and I mean, it's, as you said, it came from the prophet, peace be upon him, that we are all responsible for each other, and so that level of responsibility. And I don't know a whole much about Bill De Blasio, but I'm kind of under the impression that, from what I've seen a little bit, is that he's not enforcing a whole lot of the stay home stuff,
mhm.
and so I know Cuomo's had to step in there and do some stuff. But anyway, back to you, sir.
No, that's so important. I agree. There's not a single politician out there, let's be real, that doesn't have something that we all have an issue with. There are people who will have issue with one thing and not another, while others will have an issue with that opposite thing. It's just the unfortunate reality of leadership when you have lobbyists and when you have self-interest or other people have interest. It's just a messy game. Politics in America has become such a messy game. I personally don't foresee it's going to ever get better with Joe Biden poised as the next president contender against Trump. It goes to show how messed up our system is. The guy came in last. He knocked everyone out just like Trump did with the other Republican candidates. And the man who truly cares for the people of America, his name is Bernie Sanders. I don't mind if you disagree, but he cares. He's got a history of decades of work in this country where he's always been consistent on his gut feeling and what is right. But America doesn't deserve Bernie. Unfortunate reality. We just deserve another person who's going to say something and do something else. Remember, at least in Trump, what we have is he does what he says, where for the most part a lot of these people will give us lip service, but they'll continue doing behind their backs, behind our backs, what they want to do. But again, the discussion tonight isn't politics. It isn't about a person individually. It's about responsibility. And at a time when we have been tested as a world, we've noticed that as a nation, we haven't displayed or demonstrated responsibility as we ought to, especially when the world looks up to us. So there's a sense of guilt that we all need to take, and there's a sense of responsibility we all need to assume, and there is a rectification that needs to be done by all of us. When we're told stay home, it means stay home. The governors have told us, the president has told us, the head of the CDC has told us these next 2 weeks, the week that we're in, and next week is going to be the most dangerous 2 weeks. So keep in, stay indoors. If you do need to go out, cover your face, cover your whole mouth. I got a buff. So a buff is what I used to wear in Saudi. I'm wearing it now. It's a longer cloth that you put over your head. Make sure your whole face is covered, my beard and everything else, because COVID-19 could stick to hair particles, and then that could become a problem also. So I have to go out, unfortunately, to get the groceries and stuff, but when I do, full cover, go outside, social distancing, come home, first thing, wipe everything down, go take a shower, change your clothes. We have to be responsible. If we're not being responsible, it's the cases of irresponsibility that is coming around. Today in Texas, they arrested this girl who said on social media she's going around spreading COVID-19. She's coughing and doing things. There's another case of Hasidic Jews in New York who are coughing on people's faces. It doesn't matter if you're Jew or Christian, but like if you're human, why would you cough on people's faces for? There's an emergency responder in New York who caught COVID from one of these people who coughed in his face deliberately and spreading it. So it just like this is why you're not turned on per se when you see these type of things, because these type of stories make us hate human beings. We actually despise human beings and humanity when we all are the same as humans, and that is why a fresh face, a fresh demeanor, a fresh take is always something that gives you an opportunity to question and how do you say this? Not only question, but to appreciate what it means to be a real human being once more. So you question the status quo and you appreciate what it means to be human, and hopefully you're aspired or inspired by their goodness to aspire for yourself to be a good person also. So there's so much in the equation that we can take away. But what we want to take away tonight in our discussion is a very simple point. Are we being responsible enough? And so we hope and I pray that all of us take the responsibility we need to do individually so that collectively our collective responsibility is also fulfilled. Remember, the nation's responsibility cannot be fulfilled until each and every citizen of the nation does what we all as a nation need to do. So it's like, for example, today was great weather, 86, tomorrow's going to be 91, then on Thursday it's going to be 60. So I went out for a walk just before the prayer right in front of my house. Social distancing, don't touch anything, just go for a little walk back and forth and come inside. Why? Because yes, you need your fresh air, but that doesn't mean you have to go and have a party on the beach or go on the boardwalk in New Jersey or to go to the what you call it what was some seafood place in Washington or Baltimore. People are going. It's like, why would you do that for? It's like you're asking for a problem, and every time we go out we're making more problems for others, those being the medical staff, the hospitals, the funeral homes, and the cemeteries. Remember, God forbid the body count gets as large as it does. If they're not able to afford digging up big fields and burying people, they might just cremate everyone. And did you know in New York tonight, last night I read the article that they're converting some of their parks into temporary cemeteries. So it's getting bad. It's getting bad. And don't assume otherwise. You can blame it on 5G. You could blame it on whatever you want to once this whole thing is done. And we'll have those conversations soon. And I think we should have the conversation. But until then, what we need to do, what we need to do is the following: just stay clear so that everyone could be clear, so that our nation can be cleared to go back to business as usual. And with that, Carl, I'd like to hear from our listeners. Have they added any comments or any suggestions or thoughts? If not, then the mic belongs to you.
That's a dangerous sentiment, but yes, moving right along. Yeah, Sunshine did come back, and she said that the problem is that Bellagio has done nothing, which I think is what I had heard. She also said that she will disagree with you on Bernie, but as you had said, we're not doing politics tonight, so we'll just leave that one there. But and Sunshine, I'm gonna start this story, so feel free to jump in and add or correct on anything that I say here, because I'm just going on what I have gathered. But the fish market in DC down by the wharf. And ironically, I had a friend move into that neighborhood this weekend, and so his first week there, the cops came and shut the whole block down. So I thought that was pretty funny. I was making fun of him today. I said, "See what happens when you move into a neighborhood?" No, but it is a place with restaurants, and as far as I understood, Mariel Bowser said restaurants are closed, takeout only. But I also believe that it is. And I looked up this term because I saw it and I wasn't sure it was right. But I also believe it is what is known as a wet market. And so you can get fish and things like that there. And it was a fairly nice, cool day. And so I think it was a Saturday, wasn't it? Or Sunday, yeah. And people went down to the fish market to get food. And there was no social distancing that took place. There was no precautions that took place, and people just flooded into the area. And so Mariel Bowser had to come out, and she just shut it all down. the next day she went out and just shut the whole thing down. And I mean, I think she was in the right. I mean, I do feel bad for these businesses that are losing business and they're losing sales, and I think something should be done to aid them. But at the same time, it's I think I said this last week, and I'm going to repeat it because it is something that I'm kind of like, the beating of the dead horse is kind of what I'm doing with this. But I'm male, I'm type A blood, I have diabetes. This virus loves me, but unfortunately it wants to kill me. And I'm not interested in that right now. So I'm the guy, we ended up getting some face masks, and I know they're like disposable, but if I'm going out for like an hour and I'm not going into a heavily populated area, I'll wear it, but I'll reuse it until I go someplace. Like today I had to go to the doctor's office for an appointment, and I'm not reusing it. It's in the trash now because it's not a place I'm going to reuse the mask from. And oddly enough, and just to share this because it's a lot of pain and I'm still adjusting to it, but apparently I tore a muscle in my forearm.
Mm.
I didn't know you could do that. I didn't know it was a thing, but it really hurts. Anyway, he gave me a shot and I couldn't feel my middle fingers for a little while. But anyway, I digress. So yeah, I am the one that as soon as I come home and as soon as things are done, I don't sit down on anything. I don't hang out. I go upstairs, I shower, I change my clothes. I make everybody in the house do the same thing because I'm just not interested in dying because somebody forgot to wash their hands. And I know that I know that it's in Allah's hands, and I know what's going to be done is going to be done. But I also know that we're supposed to use our heads and we're supposed to be logical about it. And that's why it is what it is. Sunshine said that it's nuts down there. It's completely packed in the fish market. And it was. I saw some of the videos. But the thing is it's packed like that even when it's not COVID-19.
Mm-hmm.
The fish market always looks like that because everybody's down there getting food because it's a wet market. You can get your food, and
So then what happened?
it's also a DC staple.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
and the wharf that market has been there forever, and just within the last, and I'll be monitoring the chat room because I might get this wrong, but just within the last 2 years, maybe. They gutted it. They leveled it and rebuilt the whole thing.
Wow.
And so it's all, metropolitan and stuff now. But anyway, back to you.
No, that's amazing. So, with all respect, that's why we love having conversation because this place is a place where we have conversation and we disagree, but we still have conversation. We love all of you as you appreciate all of us. That's what it's about. It's about having the ability to talk, to converse, to agree, to disagree, and to agree to disagree and keep moving forward. So, yes, it is packed like that at other times also, Carl, but what goes to show is our irresponsibility at a time when we know we shouldn't be there. Like I went to one of the grocery stores here. You're lining up outside. You cannot walk in until two people walk out, and they're putting these tapes on the floor. So you have to be very careful where you go. Like that, no two people could be in the same square or rectangle. Again, this is what we all need to do. You have to make short-term adjustments for long-term gains. And if we cannot make those short term adjustments, we're going to be suffering long term losses. And so, at a time when, and I want to pitch this right now, Carl, I haven't asked you, but it's these times of desperation and hardships are also opportunities for us to rise. Each one of us can rise for each other. I have a nonprofit. The nonprofit is O People Foundation. You can go onto our website, which is the letter O People dot foundation. So it's opeople.foundation. There's no .com. It's opeople.foundation. And what we've done here is we've partnered with the restaurants. There's 9 of us now, 9 restaurants that are planning to help prepare hot meals, and we donate it to charity. The restaurants are being gracious enough to actually cook the food and put their staff and their gas and electricity forward. We're helping to help the cost of the ingredients. We got people who are helping to channel the food to the places that people need it, and the families that need it are coming and picking up the food. The point is that this is the time not only to display responsibility, but also to shine as good human beings. We have great qualities within us, and when we do things together, we perform miracles together. And so, for that, I ask of all of you that you all do your part in your respective areas with social distancing. We realize that a lot of people are giving out groceries and helping people out, which is great, but a hot meal is something that's very hard to come by because you can't go around distributing home cooked food on the streets. You will be arrested for that unless it comes from a proper facility like a kitchen that's approved by the government and is checked like a restaurant. And that's why we're partnering with restaurants to make sure that people get an immediate relief and food. This week we're going to be, last Thursday we distributed 2,200 meals, and this week we're distributing 75 meals to the doctors and staff of a hospital here close by. And next week we're planning to distribute 3,000 meals. So if you want to do something like this in your area, it's very simple. Get people together and let's work with our restaurants and everyone else to make sure that we all can help out in our capacity without making anyone suffer while they're helping someone. Don't put someone in a position that they have to suffer in order to do good. Let's all try to bear the cost and do our best. And if you feel you want to help us, you could go to the website, which is opeople.foundation, and you could donate right there on the link of the website, and your contributions will go towards feeding the people who are in need of a cooked meal. There's no we don't judge people, nor do we talk about the people. They themselves are not displayed. Their name is not displayed. They take the food and off they go home. So let's all help out in being responsible. Let's do our part. And number two, let's also help out others so that we can, and in from both angles, have a grand impact in the situation that we're currently facing. Back to you, Carl. Is there something that our listeners are saying? Please enlighten us.
Sister Layla joined us. Salam alaikum, Sister Layla. And she just apologized for being late because she's been working hard doing video calls and voice calls, and she hopes that we're all being safe and practicing social distancing, which we are, which is what we've been talking about tonight. So, uh, so is it O people, like the letter O, not
The
OH?
letter O. The letter O.
Okay. So what I will do is when we are done here, which I'm thinking is going to be very shortly, I will go ahead and post that link in the chat room so that everybody can go and donate and share the link. If you can't afford to donate right now, because I mean, obviously everybody's dealing with their own thing,
Mhm,
and we're not judging at all, but at least share the link,
mhm,
because I mean, I will tell you that this is something that my wife is doing through the school system here, because you know how the schools are giving out the meals.
mhm.
That's what we're doing. She's doing, and I'm seeing firsthand what some of these families are going through right now.
It's
So
heartbreaking.
it really is. So when we're done here, I'll share the link in the chat room. And if you can't afford to donate, which I totally understand, at least share the link and encourage others to donate to help feed people. And I think the last story I would share, because you were talking about the restaurants and how you're cooking in the restaurants to help.
Mhm,
I just saw a video right before we started, and it was an onion farmer out west,
mhm,
and he was actually dumping tons of onions back into the field.
mhm,
And he commented, he's like, I got a lot of hate on my last video because you people were like, why don't I donate them as opposed to dumping them back in the field and letting them rot?
mhm.
But he said nobody wants them because these restaurants are closed. The restaurants aren't ordering. there's no need to have all of this. They're overproduced. And in my head, I started thinking back, and I remembered that some tariffs that were put into place harmed our farmers, and farmer suicide rate is at the highest it's ever been, and farm repossession is at the highest it's ever been. So I actually just want to say that as you go through this next week and the week after that, maybe make a small prayer, make a small duat for the farmers, just in general, because in the last 3 years they've been through a lot, and it didn't occur to me that the restaurant that orders 30 pounds of onions a week is now ordering none. What's going to happen to that? So there's that. Back to you for final comment.
Well, thank you so much for enlightening us. There's a huge problem here when the restaurant industry, and keep in mind, Dallas per capita has more restaurants than New York. And so when we are, as a city and as counties, don't have the food orders coming in, that backlog goes to those food warehouses. And that backlog is then going back to the farmers. There was an article about potatoes. There was an Idaho farmer, the whole warehouse was full of potatoes and they're not going anywhere. You know why? Because no one's buying. And so the best way to help people, look, people are getting their groceries to some way or the other. I think food stamps have increased the amount and everything else. So people are getting some help, and many organizations are helping, which is really good. And it's good to see that that's happening. But what's happening is that the food items that were already allocated for restaurants, this whole chain, this whole supply chain has been disrupted. And it's hurting a lot of people financially, and it's creating a lot of waste. They can't bag it up and send it to Kroger. They can't bag it up and send it to Publix. It has to go down its channel. So even in Tampa, when they closed Busch Gardens, they donated all their food to the food bank there, and that was because that's what they had. It was a lot of food, like a lot of raw items. Imagine how much of the backlog hasn't been seen yet, because they've cut down their suppliers from bringing food in, and so it's all just going back. And so with that, we're in a really desperate time, and I think people need to understand that. And our goal is to just help each other and make sure that food's not wasted and people who are hungry get food. So thank you so much for enlightening us, and thank you to your wife and you for doing it. We had meals go to certain schools last week, and again, kids don't even get food at home because of the financial situation of their families. It's not the family's fault. It's just really tough. And then people who lost their jobs or been furloughed because of this, it's just a double whammy. So everyone, please do a prayer tonight in your own respective ways, to your own respective, in your own respective way, the way you pray, to who you pray. Just make a prayer for the world, make a prayer for each other, make a prayer for the farmers, and realistically, just think about each other tonight. And as you think about each other and pray for each other, just be responsible, all of us, and let's do the right thing. Don't go to the beach, don't go to the park, don't start having games and stuff. Maintain your social distancing. And Ramadan is coming up. It's a time for us to really, appreciate the seclusion and the connection with God. And we'll talk more about that in the upcoming week. So thank you so much for selecting the topics. Thank you so much for allowing us to join you all on this conversation. And with that, I'll give it back to Brother Carl.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, brings us to the end of another episode of the Raw Islam podcast with Imam Azhar. You can join us here every Tuesday evening, except when we're not here, because that's how life works. And you can find a catalog of back episodes at VennNetwork.org. Make sure you like, share, comment. We can grow when you invite. So if you enjoy this show and you enjoy other, shows like this, make sure you share. Invite somebody to come watch it with you. I want to thank Umi, Sunshine, and Sister Layla for joining us this evening. And if you want to support the show and you want to support the network and you want to support the hosts, Make sure you head over to VennNetwork.org and click on the swag tag, and you can get cool little T-shirts like the one I'm wearing, which has the original Venn Network logo. But also up there now is, I can get this right, the blue logo here, 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 here. And you can find that up there in the store as well now, too. So until next week, ladies and gentlemen, we will say, Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu